Welcome to the Crypto Lab. Today we will talk about Bitcoin. As long as BTC stays the king of the market, the whole crypto market depends on it. So whatever the coins you invested in, this video is for you. I want you to stay focused because this is one of my most important videos. We will dive into two charts, this big picture chart that you already know and the Heatmap chart. There are a lot of things to say about this chart, so stay until the end. We are going to discuss why it's decision time and potential targets. I promise you don't want to miss that one. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. Now, let's jump in. On this chart, I remind you that we have the skyline in blue, we have the cloud line in white. Those two are regression lines. The blue line detects great tops for Bitcoin, and the cloud line can be considered as the mean of Bitcoin. Then we have the pi cycle top indicator with two lines, one in green that you can see right here and one in red, okay? Then we have the aqua line in blue again, as you can see. Every time we pierce it, we have a big bounce to the upside. We pierce it, we have a bounce, pierce it, we have a bounce. And last but not least, we have the spotlight indicator, because every time we enter the yellow zone that you see here also, and here, and even in the past, we have a big event in the market. And we have the bottom indicators with the bottom line, with the golden color, and the mountain indicator in green that you see here, because in the past, you see that when those two are crossing, we may have a bottom. It was the case right here and right here, okay? Now that you have an overview of the indicators, let's jump into the analysis. Right now, we have the red line of the pi cycle top indicator crossing the cloud line. Okay, you have the line right here, and it's crossing the cloud line just right here. And to understand what it means, we need to take a step back. Let's see what was going on when we had a cross between the cloud line and the red line of the pi cycle top indicator. The first time was here. As you can see, we had a cross between the red line and the white line, and it was a major bottom for Bitcoin at the same time. Then if we have a look at what happened for the second cross, when the red line crossed under the white line, it was just right here. Bitcoin went into a capitulation. So we crossed and Bitcoin went down to test the bottom line. The third cross was just right here. We had the red line above the white line, we cross. We use the red line as a resistance for multiple weeks, but at the end, we went down to retest the bottom line. So you should start seeing a pattern now. It seems to me that every time that the red line crosses under the white line, we have a capitulation in the market. At least so far it was the case. So if we take a look at the current situation, you can see that the red line is currently crossing under the white line. As you can see on this chart, I added also one line, which is very important. This is this yellow dashed line. What is it exactly? Let's take a step back again. As you can see, this line is crossing Bitcoin bottom in 2015 and Bitcoin bottom in 2018. You can draw the same line at home. You have to go to Bitcoin US dollar on the index chart, okay? And then you just have to draw the line going through this bottom and this bottom. This is a bottom to bottom line. And as you can see, this line is so important for Bitcoin. Why? Because it was a perfect support for multiple months and even multiple years. As you can see, here it was Bitcoin bottom. After this, we tested the line, we had a move to the upside. Here we tested the line, we had a move to the upside. During this entire phase, we kept on testing this line again and again and again, and it held perfectly. Here again, it was the same thing before the legendary bull run of Bitcoin. Then we have this bottom, right? And as you can see, it was a very similar scenario. We had our bottom just right here, and then for multiple weeks in a row, we kept on testing this very same line before this major move. Then we tested it here. We have this move. And recently, we tested it, guys, just right here. We tested it perfectly as a perfect support. But there is more to say. Why? Let me explain. As you can see, it was a support every time we touched it, except for this phase, just right here, because we crossed the line and we went into a second capitulation to retest the bottom line. Okay, so we crossed the bottom to bottom line and we went into a capitulation. But guess what, guys? This is exactly what we did just right here during the COVID crisis. Indeed, we have the yellow line going up like this. We used it as a support. We came to retest it, but we crossed it and we went into a second capitulation and we retested the bottom line. So if we sum it up and we take a big step back, you see that we used this bottom to bottom line as a great support most of the times, except for this phase and this phase, because we crossed the bottom to bottom line and we went to a capitulation, and it was exactly the same scenario just right here in 2020. Now look how similar this is. You have the spotlight indicator in yellow and the spotlight indicator in yellow just right here. And look what happened. In 2020, we penetrated the spotlight indicator just right here. We went up. At the middle of it, we went down and we crossed the bottom to bottom line and we went into a capitulation, right? So the spotlight indicator and the bottom to bottom line had a cross just right here, and it was a perfect confluence point to retest the bottom line. And look what's currently going on. We are under the cloud line. We have a cross between the bottom to bottom line and the spotlight indicator again. So there is no coincidence in this chart. This is exactly the same scenario that we had in 2020. We went up, we went at the crossing point between the spotlight and the bottom to bottom line. Here we penetrated the spotlight indicator, we went up, we went down at the crossing point between those two lines. And I remind you that I've been using the spotlight indicator for months now, so you already know about it. So we could anticipate where the price would be just by looking at the spotlight indicator and the bottom to bottom line, because we were here in 2020 and currently we are retesting the same line. So does it mean that we will go down? This is the $1 million question. Well, I'm going to try to share my opinion about it. Of course, this is not financial advice. I just can be honest and share what I think about what will happen. I'm not going to lie. The current situation is pretty bearish. Why? Because we have the current price that is below the white line, below the cloud line. And we know that this line is the mean of Bitcoin. So when we are below it, we are pretty bearish. Then starting next week, we will be out of the spotlight indicator. So that's why this week is very important. And what will happen here will decide of the future of the market. In addition, we saw that in the past, when the red line was crossing the cloud line, it was pretty bearish because every time we went into a capitulation. And right now, it's no surprise that when the red line is crossing the cloud line, at the same time, we are retesting the bottom to bottom line, okay? This is no coincidence, guys. So does it mean that we will go down? There is a great chance that we will. So I want you to be ready, but I want to say something, because we will go down if we cross the bottom to bottom line. That's why I want you to draw this line at home. This is what I believe right now. This is what the chart is saying. It's saying that if we cross the bottom to bottom line, we should go down. But if we don't, then we should have a bottom just right here and the price should start going up. This is exactly why I think that it's decision time. It's because we've been testing this line for multiple weeks now. And I think that this might be a final test to know if we are able to use it as a support to start going up from now, or if we will have a capitulation. And in that case, it would be very bad. If we break this low around $33,000, this would look very bad and we might retest the aqua line. So to sum it up, there is just one thing holding us right now, and it's the bottom to bottom line. If you need to remember one thing, it is this. For this week, the bottom to bottom line is around $38,600. So if we start going below this level, be ready. From my side, I won't do anything because I'm here for the long term. But if we start going down and we retest the aqua line, then I might buy some Bitcoin. In the coming weeks, the aqua line will be around $28,000 to $27,000. $100,000. So we have a first target just in case we go down, and we have another one because as you can see, this is very interesting because just right here we have a confluence point between the bottom line and the mountain indicator. And we know for a fact, guys, that in the past we have the mountain indicator, the bottom line crossing, we had a bottom. Here it was the same thing. We have the mountain indicator, the bottom line crossing, we had a capitulation, and the price was just at the crossing point between the spotlight indicator and the bottom to bottom line. And in the past, look, here we have the mountain indicator crossing the area of the bottom line, and we had a capitulation, guys. So this is very important. We have to pay close attention to this area. The cross will happen in May and it will be around $20,000. So I know that this looks impossible. We are so far away from this point, and this would mean that we would go down in just 1 month. We will go down about minus 50%, which is a lot. However, in 2020, nobody thought that this was possible, and this is exactly the scenario that we had. So remember that everything is possible in crypto. And just in case, guys, if it happens, it will be a great opportunity. So let me know in the comments what you think about this. Of course, this is the bearish scenario. In fact, we might have another bottom just around this area because as you can see, the mountain indicator is going up and it will have to go down at some point. And as the bottom line will cross it a second time just around this area, or somewhere in the future, we might have a second confluence area. What does it mean? It means that Bitcoin could go down in the bearish scenario, touch the aqua line, start going up, and then have a second crash to test the mountain indicator and the bottom line. So these are two possible scenarios. Either we go down in May to retest the bottom, either we touch the aqua line, we go up, and then we retest the bottom line. Of course, we cannot predict the future, but at least we can be ready if one of these scenarios happens. And you should have understood it right now. If we don't go down and we keep on using the bottom to bottom line as a support, this is the bullish scenario because this means that this is our bottom. Also, I want to remind you something that is very important. Bitcoin is still making higher highs and higher lows. This is so important, guys, because technically we are still in an uptrend. So we cannot underestimate this information. So despite all the negative signals, at the end of the day, what matters is making higher highs and higher lows. This is the definition of an uptrend. So as long as we keep on doing this, low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, there is nothing to worry about, and whatever the signals are telling us, the chart will always be right. So keep your eyes on this line. I think you got it now. Let's move to the next chart. This is the Heatmap chart. I like this chart a lot because it's saying so many things that are very interesting. Let's jump in. First, as you can see, I added also the bottom to bottom line in yellow with the dashed line because this is the critical line that we have to keep on the chart. And as you can see, we again have a confluence point between the bottom to bottom line and this line of the Heatmap chart, okay? And you see that this is what I call the capitulation line. Why? Because you see that here, let me zoom in, okay, it will be better. You see that here we crossed the capitulation line and we went into a capitulation, right? Then in the future, it was exactly the same thing. We crossed the line and we went into a capitulation, okay, to retest the bottom. That's why the analysis is pretty straightforward. Currently, we retested the capitulation line, as you can see. We have a beautiful wick. The line is around $28,900. So far, we pierced the line, but we didn't go below it. So if we want to stay bullish, we need to keep it this way. In addition, if we take a step back, you can see that we already tested the capitulation line once, okay, just right here. And we had a pretty great move to the upside, but we went down and we are retesting the same line again. You can see that this was a confluence point between the bottom to bottom line and the capitulation line, and we have a second confluence point and the price is at it again. And there is more to say about this chart. Why? This time we need to focus on the colors. Let's go back in 2014. As you can see, before crossing the capitulation line just right here, we had one line that separated into two lines, one into the capitulation line and one in the bottom line. Okay, so we had one line and then we had one capitulation line to retest the capitulation and one for the bottom to test the bottom. The separation, the split into two lines happened just before the capitulation. If we take a look at 2018, it was the same thing. As you can see, we had one line, then a separation of the line, we have the capitulation line going up and the bottom line going sideways. And after crossing the capitulation line, we retested the bottom. But I want you to focus on the colors because we have the separation of the line and it was green. It started going yellow and orange before turning purple. And when it turns purple, this is a strong warning sign that the bottom is close. In 2018, it was the same thing. We have a separation of the line and the line started going purple, okay, way before the bottom. And this was a strong warning sign that the bottom would be retested. And of course, if I'm telling you this now, it's because this is starting turning purple, as you can see. We have the separation of the line, the capitulation line going up with a retest of the capitulation. Fortunately, we had a bounce, so we didn't cross the capitulation line and we didn't go down, which was very good, but we are currently retested the capitulation line and the bottom line at the same time with the bottom line turning purple. So this is a strong warning sign that we could have a retest of the bottom line. Of course, there is no guarantee in this market. I say it again and again and again. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing what I see in the charts. So to sum it up, if we want to stay bullish on this chart, we have to use the capitulation line as a support again and have a beautiful bounce to the upside, exactly what we had in the past. In February, when we tested this line and the bottom line and we had a nice bounce to the upside. We want to see the same thing. If you see that BTC crosses this line, this will be a very strong sign that we will retest the bottom line. And currently, as I said it in the previous chart, the bottom line is around $20,000. Like, comment, subscribe if you liked the video. Just be ready for every scenario. In the coming weeks, we should have a better idea of what the market wants to do, but it's definitely decision time. That's all for today's video, and as always, time will tell.